Architecture to me, I believe, is the art of designing beautiful buildings, buildings that have some kind of character or soul to them. So I guess that's how I describe architecture. Grew up right here in Fresno. Went to school here. Was born in Selma. My parents both came from Mexico, so first generation here. Parents both out of small towns out of near Guadalajara in Mexico, and both came here. And so I grew up here in Fresno, born in Selma, grew up here, went to school, elementary school, middle school, high school, all here in Fresno, and then went away to Cal Poly as a freshman in San Luis Obispo, and then came back here to Fresno for a little while, for about three and a half years after I graduated from Cal Poly, and then went up to the Bay Area for, I was probably up there, I think it was about two and a half years before I decided to come back to the Valley. And when I came back, I really thought I would probably maybe only be here for a little while and then go back up. But you know, the Valley's home. It's always been home, and I love it here. You know, it gives me a chance to raise my family, my kids here, and with my family, and family is very important to me. So my family's here, my wife's family's here, so Fresno's home. So I'm the first one in my entire family to go to college. So I didn't even know what it would take to be an architect. But my family, my parents both knew, even though they didn't go to college, that they wanted me or their kids to go to college. And so I think the first time when I heard about architecture really wasn't until high school. I don't know if in high school, you know, they made us take these tests or these, I don't know, questionnaires, I guess, that would then tell you what, you know, possible careers you should follow or be. And I got interested in architecture when I was a little kid, kind of I would draw houses, you know, as a little kid. And so that was always fun to me. And then when I got into high school, or actually into ninth grade, is when I took my first drafting class, and that was where we would draw by hand with a pencil. And that's kind of where I first got exposed to it. You know, that's when they started giving you these questionnaires about, you know, what you should be or what you should do as a career, and architecture seemed to be one of them. And it was interesting to me because I love drawing houses, and I thought at the time I really couldn't have told you what an architect did. I had no clue, but I thought they did houses or designed houses, and so that was what I kind of went into and leaned towards, and took an architecture class in high school, which, you know, they aren't offered that much anymore, but I took 2 years of architectural drafting, but that kind of got me going towards architecture. And so I applied. Again, I didn't know anything, nobody had gone to college, so I applied to architecture school. I only applied to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, and my other fallback was Fresno State because I didn't know any better, you know. And thankfully I got into Cal Poly, and I still remember my dad asked me, he's like, well, why you have to go away to go to school, you know, to get an architecture degree, you know, because again, we thought, you know, every college offers the same things, right? Like a high school or something, but, you know, so, but I got lucky. I got accepted in Cal Poly and ended up becoming an architect. Cal Poly's environment, you know, for me, when I first went there, I came from Fresno, and again, like I said, you know, we migrant, Latino family, and so there was a little bit of culture shock, I think, for me to go to Cal Poly. And that was maybe hard for that first year, but you know, you kind of get in the rhythm, you get in the flow, and you start making friends. I didn't know anybody, so I went to Cal Poly and didn't know a single person, you know, and but I met some really nice people. You know, I got lucky again. You know, I met some people the very first night I was there that kind of I went out to dinner with, and he became one of my best friends. And so I got lucky, I think, in that respect. Met some nice people, met people in studio, and it all worked out. But the culture for Cal Poly, I think, was very, it was a lot of fun, you know, because Cal Poly it's a college town, so the environment is kind of all geared towards upper education, because it seems like most of the people there in San Luis Obispo are either you're going to Cal Poly, or you're going to Cuesta, which was a community college there, or you're retired, or you worked at Cal Poly or Cuesta, is what it seemed like. So it was a nice environment. It was neat. It was small. very small community, so getting back and forth between school was easy, and studio was fun. The first couple years we didn't have a studio per se. You go the first and second year, you take design courses, but they're very generic. They're very small little pieces of design that you're learning to kind of design in small spaces or small little things, and then you work your way towards a building. And it wasn't until we got into third year that we got that studio feel, and that was a lot of fun. That was really neat, to have a studio that you went back to, that you were able to go to after hours. Spend all night there, and a lot of times you'd hang out with your friends and you'd be doing your work, and so that was a lot of fun. And we all kind of thought at that time, it's like, man, how are we going to go to this, from this environment to an office environment, right, where you're going to go to work 8 to 5 in front of a computer or table or something. And we were all kind of wondering how that was going to happen, but it works out one way or another. And but it was fun. I had a great time at Cal Poly. I would definitely recommend it. I don't think at the time it was as design oriented maybe as I would have preferred. You look at Berkeley, SciArc, some of these other schools that are very well known for design, and I think Cal Poly at the time was maybe still known for being able to produce quality architects, but not known necessarily for design. I think it may be changing a little bit. It has definitely changed since I've been gone, but it was great. And some of my professors, a lot of the people that, I look at some of these guys that graduate now and have graduated from Cal Poly, and I don't know a single professor. I knew some of them, but very little. And the professors that I had that influenced me, there's probably a couple of them, and they're not there anymore. I remember Larry Lowe, and he was very, he would come around. The funny part about Larry is that he would come around, and little by little, he'd give you a design problem, but as he went around and talked to everybody, you'd see that everybody's design started to kind of look the same, because Larry'd have his influence on everybody, but he was very good about talking to you about it, and trying to help you work through your ideas. And some people just gravitated towards following his ideas, I think. But I think he influenced me in that respect of, I didn't maybe necessarily follow his ideas, but he helped me understand what my ideas were, or to strengthen whatever my ideas were in the design. But he was one. I think Don Swearingen, who was there, I still remember him very much. And then my fifth year professor, who passed away, Richard. So he passed away shortly after we graduated, maybe 4 or 5 years after we graduated and stuff. One of the things about architects, it seems like, and not all of them, we're not all alike, but it seems like we all procrastinate, right? And design is something that it's never really done, right? You're never really finished. Even when you have to turn something in, there's something that could have been a little bit better. I don't think we ever say, you don't solve an equation or something and say, bam, it's done. It's done, right? It's just, you keep working. And I think I've told you, I think for me, always design at the end, it's my last mistake, right? I make mistakes as I go through designing things, and I realize that I'll design something, I don't like it, but there's a piece of it I like, and you keep developing, and the last one's just the last mistake you made. It's still not complete, but so I guess we procrastinate, and we end up spending a lot of time in studio because we can never really, finalize our design, or we may have an idea that we're working towards that we finalize, but I don't know if our design is ever really complete. Even now, you go through a building, if you design one, you go through it, and there's things that you see that maybe others don't, but you see, and that I could have done that better, or I could have made this better. So I think the work ethic for architecture students is that architecture is a lot of late nights. I don't think it has to be. I think if you can set up and work are very good time management, maybe it doesn't have to be, right? I don't spend a lot of nights now. I'm not doing all-nighters now. I have, but not anymore. And so I think time management is one of it, is part of it. But it can be. It's a very rigorous degree to try to get. I know that some people try to do, like, I hear some people maybe try to talk about, well, maybe I can do athletics and get an architecture degree at the same time, and I don't know if that's possible, you know, not without taking a little hiatus there from architecture, or one of the others got to give, because it's not something that you can take, you know, it's not math homework that you can take with you on the bus and work out or something, right? It's something that you really need to be in that type of environment to design, kind of get in your zone or whatever it takes, and there are certain things that you need. So I don't think it's not like writing an English paper or a math paper or solving an equation or something. It's different, and it takes that it takes a lot of time, I think, and it takes that environment. And whether you can do that and find that environment at home or your apartment or wherever you happen to be, or if you need to go in, like for me, I needed to go into studio to do that. That's where you have to be. And so it could be late nights. I'm not going to say that every night was a late night, but there was definitely some. There was definitely all-nighters, but it was a lot of fun. I wouldn't change it. You know, I had a great time when I think about it. Well, we studied a few people. You know, back then, I still remember going through school, and Michael Graves was one of the big architects. And God, I look at his work, and I'm not a big fan of a lot of that postmodern style. But that was one of the things that, I mean, they were in architecture magazines at that time. And but I think that the ones that I liked at the time, I liked Legarreta and Barragan. I liked Tom Main and what Morphosis was doing. I like Richard Meyer and the way he organized things. I think those were probably 10 architects also out of Mexico that I liked. But I think if I were to say influences, I liked Tom Main and the things that he was doing. I thought he was very creative with what he was doing. And then I liked the organization of Richard Meyer and the way he organized his projects all the way down to the grid that he used for his final facades and everything else. So I think those two were, and I think that may have come from Larry Lowe. I know he was influenced very heavily by Richard Meyer, but I enjoyed his stuff. I remember some comments though about Richard Meyer homes, and I just remember my professor saying, you know, can you imagine yourself living in that house? And I don't know if I really could, right? He's like, can you imagine coming home, throwing your socks on the floor, you know, whatever stuff. It's like that. It's so well organized, so you know, it's all white, you know. How would that be to live in? But there's something about the way he organized these things that I really liked. I don't know about the all white, but I like his organizational stuff. So there's a number of projects, I think, but right now probably the ones that are taking a lot of the time right now are probably the new high school for Madera. Even though Matt, another person in our office, is kind of leading. Give him a chance to lead the design, and I'm kind of overseeing. But Madera and new high school Madera, a new College of Osteopathic Medicine for California Health Sciences University, and then kind of multiple projects for Fresno Unified, some neat, exciting stuff that they're doing as well. So that's we always referred to it in the office as Planada Middle School. It's Cesar E. Chavez Middle School. It's in Planada, California. It's small Latino migrant farm worker community outside of Merced, probably southeast of Merced, and it's a new middle school. One of the first things I got to design that got built. And like I said, it started out for us as Planada Middle School because these schools, when we design them, a lot of times we don't know what the school is going to be named. We don't know what the colors for the school are going to be. There's some things that are important to us that we don't really know yet. But I love that it was named Cesar Y. Chavez. It's one of my favorite projects, even though I look at it at some of my earlier work. But that was something that it's a community that I gravitate towards, and I think I understand because I was part of it. And so when I designed that, Grant Dotson in our office had another big part in the design of that project, because I think a lot of things that I do, in school, I did everything, right? All my projects were mine. I ended up doing everything. Nobody drew other things for me, or nobody helped with the design other than influence that you would get from people and talking to people or critiques or your professors. But when you get to the office, you work together as a group. And in this one, it was Grant Dodson and myself. And Grant had laid out kind of the site plan, some of the floor plans for the beginning of this. And then I kind of took it from there. And so this one, since it was primarily Latino migrant farm worker community, I took influences from Luis Barragan and Legarreta. And, there's a strong use of color, strong use of sunlight and how that affects the building with shade and shadow. There's every space and every building in at that school is entered through a portal, and you see the main portal as you walk in. It's that first picture, as you walk in, it's got the name of the school. So you enter every space through a portal. That was another one of the design ideas. It was laid out kind of like a Mexican plaza where you've got the classrooms on the side, the administration, library in the front, and the multi-purpose kind of in the back, and they all kind of speak to each other as you're in the center, and everything faces the plaza. There's a face towards the plaza, strong angles on it as well. But yeah, it was one of the first things I got to design, and you can see the influence in the color and the sun and shade. You can see there's a sundial on, that's actually a bathroom building. It's one of the facades that faces south, and there's a sundial on there that actually works. And so that was neat. It was it was a very fun project, one that I remember the opening. When we opened that, they had mariachis, and I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. It was really neat to get something built. This is Alex G. Spanos Elementary School. It's in Stockton, California. It's a small elementary school, and I think the challenge with that one was that there's a couple, but one is that they had a very tight site. It was 3 acres, which meant that the school was going to have to go multiple stories, and so it's laid out with all the classrooms going multiple stories. The kindergarten stays on the first floor, and then admin, library, multi-purpose, that's all single story, but very tight site around a central kind of courtyard again. Trying to, the other big influence there is that the design needed to get approval from the Historical Society. So the first design that we did, school districts were trying to be cognizant of its public funds and the money that we're spending to build these, so that we tried to be, we're not trying to go overboard or do anything. But our first design that we had, again, it's very, very similar to the way it ended up. But when we went to the Historical Society, they wanted more variation in the long mass of the classroom building. And so we had to break the mass a little bit. And but I think in the end, it made it better. And it was supposed to be a, craftsman, modern interpretation of the craftsman style, but it fits in great into the community. One thing that I do love is that I go back and I take a look at it, and it still looks very good. They've taken very good care of it, and it's a joy to go back and take a look at that school still even today for me. But yeah, those are just pictures of the principal's office, the library. I think that one that you're looking at there, you can see the office or the windows from the principal, who's got a great view of the entire quad and the entire school. Very small, very intimate, I think. It's a safety concern that is out there with anything, right? And in this case, we call it eyes on campus, but when you deal with downtowns and other things, it's this being able to have eyes on you so that you feel safe. You feel that if somebody can see me, if people can see me, then I feel a little bit safer, right? And yet in this case, it's kind of taking that concept and saying, oh, okay, I can't see, the windows are shaded, they're a gray light, so that the principal who's in that office can see out, but you can't see in. So you don't know, hey, I don't know if the principal's in there or not, but I know that if they are in there, they can see exactly what I'm doing. And so that's kind of the concept. We try to locate them in a place where they've got a great supervision of the entire campus. And you as a student, if you're out there, I can't really see in, so I don't know, are they in there, are they not in there? Because if they're in there, they can see what I'm doing. And so that's kind of one of the things we try to do, is kind of have eyes on campus to provide some safety and security of the campus. So this is Edison High School academic building. I hear that they call it the W building because of the columns, but I'm actually going to go out there next week to speak to some of the students and give them a tour of the building. But it's a new academic building on Edison High School here in Fresno. And for that project, it was we did a master plan of the entire campus, and the first building that was going to go on the campus is this one, and this was to replace. It was a portable replacement, so it was meant to be a number of classrooms that would replace portables that were on the campus, and it was going to go in a place where there was an existing science building there that was one of the oldest structures there on the campus. And so when we did the master plan, we spoke to a lot of people about the master plan, and spoke to staff and administration and students. And one of the things we heard when we started to design this building that I thought of a lot is that the students had always said, hey, our colors are black and gold, yet our school is tan. I think it was tan and teal. And and that's something that the district, the prudent decision that they made on their part to paint a lot of the schools the same color makes it easy and for maintenance. But it was something that stuck to me, and so that when we designed this, that we wanted to generate around those colors. And the design of this, if you look at it, it really is just a double-loaded corridor with one of the wings kind of canted out to face. They've got a plaza out there, an amphitheater, and it's to give a face to the amphitheater. We located the teacher workroom there with on that diagram you can see all those red arrows, whatever, to have again that same idea of visual supervision. When you look at it, all the other glass on the building is clear except for that glass there on the teacher workroom, because again we want to have that idea for kids that, hey, that's a teacher workroom. I don't know if they're in there because I can't tell, but if they're in there, they're going to be able to see me. And so it's that same concept and idea that we had there. But the wing is canted out to try to bring natural light down. There's a skylight that runs the length of that building, so it's trying to bring natural light down onto the bottom floor. So that's why it's canted out a little bit, to try to provide some opening to get down onto the bottom floor. And then the use of the school colors. There's the binary code screen. That part of the campus, again, it faces onto the amphitheater, but it also faces west, and so it gets a lot of afternoon sun. And so I was trying to come up with a way of how do I shade this, and the windows behind it, you can kind of see they follow a rhythm that was set by, there was an old building that used to be on the campus that used to be the front of the campus, and it was demolished. It didn't meet the Field Act, so it wasn't structurally sound anymore. So they demolished it and put in these new buildings that aren't new anymore, but they at the time. And so people felt that they lost a lot of history when that building went down, and a lot of identity. And so we tried to bring some of that back. We followed some of the rhythm of the classrooms with the windows, but they faced west, right? The orientation of this, because of where it needed to go, the classrooms faced west, and they had a lot of window on that side that we wanted to bring in, a lot of natural light. And so we came up with this binary code because of Edison Computech, this relationship between the two, and this of a computer, the binary code. And so people ask me all the time if it says something, and I'll let somebody figure it out. But for me, architecture, that building, I guess, has a soul to it, right? It's got something that makes it special. And maybe, I don't know really exactly what it is. I couldn't really tell you. I wish I could, so that I could put it into every single thing that I did. But there is something, I think with the slope and the roof and the binary code and the use of color, where the glass is, you can see on one of those pictures that shows this new logo and the wood that comes up the ceiling and down the floor, and this new logo that Martin Illich in our office created. And again, that's to harken back to the existing building that was there before. When you walked into that building, at the very top, it had this crest that building had, and when that got demolished, we wanted it. We knew we weren't going to put a crest up in this building, but that was our crest. It's in the entrance as you walk in, and Martin developed this beautiful logo that relates to really what Edison is and what they do there. And I know they use it for other things now as well. And so that's our crest. That's our entrance crest as you walk in. And so I think it's worked out. I think it's been successful. So it explains a number of things. One is it shows the skylights up on the top, how we're trying to bring natural light down into the building. It's got solar panels that are going up on the roof. Again, it shows the dark windows there at the teacher workroom so that you get this sense of security, or so that people can see out, but you don't know if they're looking in. It shows the binary code and the use of color, and again, trying to bring in school colors into the building. And the nice thing about that one is that when they allowed us to use these colors, and then went back and painted the rest of the campus to match, and that was nice. That was made it feel a lot more integrated into that campus and stuff.
That was one of my questions, was how did the district accept this building, because it was so different?
It was, and if you look at it on campus, it's very different than anything on campus, right? But in that case, I knew that there's a master plan, right? There's a master plan for that campus, for future buildings to go onto that campus. And so I know that there is a plan that is in place for there to again, try to bring back that identity back to that campus, and try to bring some pride back into that campus, which I think that campus has a lot of, but to try to show that pride. And so I know that there's future buildings that will fit in, hopefully fit into this design motif that's been set. And so when they looked at it, again, they loved that old building, but people would tell us, hey, we're not telling you that we don't want you to design another old building. We just want something that is like that old building, that had identity and could move forward. So the next project is Rutherford B. Gaston Middle School. Again, it's a Fresno Unified School District here in Fresno, California. It's on, again, the southwest side of town, and it's the feeder to, one of the feeders to Edison High School. So a new middle school that we got to do for Fresno Unified went down in a pretty rough neighborhood. The district had an eminent domain. There was Carver School was on that site. They eminent domain a lot of some other properties. I don't know if you're familiar with the U. You probably aren't, since you're not from Fresno, but U was located down there, which is not a very good neighborhood. So good thing that probably went away. It was probably a good thing, and this came in its place. So good project. It's I think the thing about that one is it's about a 800 to 1,000 student middle school that feeds to Edison. And again, with the use of color on that, the district liked Edison, and since this transitions into Edison as the feeder for it, they wanted to use the same color palette, and you'll see that, the same color palette that we used at Edison. So maintain the same color palette, tried to give it a sense of entry. Again, they wanted something that was gave it a sense of history, and so the colonnade there, with a modern interpretation of that colonnade, and then the rhythm that's created by the classrooms as you enter the building on the corner and work your way down is one of the things we tried to implement. But large schools, separated, admin, multi-purpose onto one side, and all the teaching areas on the other. It's two-story. We moved the library up to the second floor, which I think it was a very nice feature for it as well. It's on the second floor because in this case we wanted that front foyer space. We wanted to keep the spaces that the community would interact with on that side of the building, other than there's a lecture room that the community could also use that's off of the foyer there to one side. But again, for safety and security, all those are placed outside of a doorway that you can lock and then lock down the rest of the campus, right? So, but it's on the upper floor, so as you come in, admin's on the lower floor, you can go upstairs and the community can use the library, and you're all still within that foyer. You can open the foyer, close down the rest of the campus, and they can access those spaces. And so that's why it ended up going up on the second floor there at that location. The idea is that if you're having an event or something inside the library, which a lot of times they do, that the public can come into that main foyer, access the library, still have access to restrooms, a drinking fountain, other things, and you can lock down the rest of the campus and not have to worry about providing them getting into the rest of the campus or something. So, but yeah, some models that we did. The curve, you can see there's a curve there, and that's I think you'll see it in one of the shots. The next shot, I think it is, where you can see an aerial of it. Maybe it's and you can see Edison kind of in the background. That one that you have there, Richard. That one right there. You can see Edison kind of in the background. If you follow the curve, it's meant to be this this symbolic gesture of, you know, that you end up at Edison, right? You're working your way towards Edison, and so the curve is not only, I think, kind of an inviting type of form, you know, as you come in, but also the symbolization of it leading out towards Edison High School. We had at one time it was going to be, again, you know, it's got to meet budget, and so we had metal panels that were a color shift, and it would shift colors when you looked at it, so it would always look like that end was a different color. So again, it was meant to be this swoop, you know, to be this, again, this accentuation of movement as you move towards Edison High School. Large picture window there on that side, again, to to represent that matriculation over to Edison High School. Again, the use of color, you know, you can see those screens that we designed. Again, they're trying to knock down the solar gain into those and keep the heat out of those rooms. But again, the strong use of the massing that we did, the colors, and again, a lot of these things are with other people helping, so that it isn't all just me. I had a large part in that one, but you know, there's multiple people in our office working on it, and so a good idea can come from anywhere. And a lot of people, we've got some talented people in our office, and to develop some of these nice projects with some great ideas. So this is a multi-purpose building, and again, I wanted to have some kind of focal. I wanted this to be a little bit of a special room, and the ceiling. Again, we had to cut something out. It was a wood ceiling, but in the end, I think it ended up being a gyp ceiling. But I think it's still a beautiful space. You know, it's got this undulation to it, and it works its way back over to the front proscenium wall and down that wall onto the stage. And then on the back side of it, that you don't see in that picture, is their food court. And so it's kind of meant to link these two spaces. And the wood stayed in the food court, so you can see it there. But I think it's a dynamic space, and that's what it's meant to be. And then that picture shows the foyer. You're inside of this is the gym, and you can see the snack bar over there to the right, and the windows there viewing into the gym, and that's really a function of you have a lot of time the boosters work the snack bar, right, when you have games, and those boosters most of the time are parents, and their kids are playing in the game, and so this allows them to be able to work the snack bar and still be able to see their child or play, you know, and so that's one of the functions of why the glass in the windows there. So the last project is Patino's School of Entrepreneurship, and so this one started out as a different project, ended up being Patino School of Entrepreneurship. Again, Grant, Martin Illich, other people in our office deserve a lot of, Valentine, a lot of people in this office deserve a lot of credit for the way that turned out. So it's a specialized high school. I believe it's less than 500 students, and each one of their classes, I think, once you get into the junior, senior year, you start to build and maybe design and build your own business. And so they are supposed to be breeding entrepreneurs. And so I think one of the kids got, I don't know how famous he got, but started his own business of doing bow ties, and it started to go pretty good. I don't know how good it's going for him now, but he got some notoriety for that, and so they start these businesses. And I just remember that one. That was an interesting story because he got some press for it and was selling them online, and so I think was doing fairly well. So they were nice ties. I remember to look at them. It was a neat deal. So, but that's what it is. They tried to breed entrepreneurship, and it's a very small campus. It's got an existing building there to one side of it, but for a small building, again, I think there's something special about that one that I really like, and other people deserve a lot of credit for it because it by far is not just me on that. So, but a good school, again, admin separated to one side, all the classes to the other, enter through this glass box, and they've got this beautiful classroom in there that is meant to be a collaboration space. And it actually, so there you see the entrance, a night shot, and it's in a pretty rough neighborhood, right next to City College. And was talking to one of the owners just the other day, and they talk about how these schools, if you invest back in that community, how Even though you would think it's a pretty rough neighborhood, it's going to get tagged, all that glass, they're going to break windows or something, nothing happens. You know, they take pride in it and take care of it. And so that's been open for, I think, 2 years now, and still impressive school to go into. But big glass boxes, you walk in, you can kind of see it there as you come in, and then as you go into the interior, you can look at some of these specialized spaces. Classroom, again, it's not your typical layout where you've got, you know, rows of desks. It's students working collaboratively, a lot of technology with the monitors, a lot of whiteboards, working in groups. So it's a great atmosphere to be in. I think when we go out there and take visits, it's really neat the way the kids have taken to that class and to that school. And the next picture, I think it is what we call, that was going to be our, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with that show Shark Tank, but you know, one of the things they got to do is they got to pitch their ideas to investors. You know, they come up with their business model, their design of their business, and they pitch it to investors that might invest in that business. And so this is the Shark Tank room. You know, you've got this large, in this case, large presentation format there at the front. These doors that can open up to make it larger and allow you to spill into that foyer, that big glass box that you walk into. But you know, it's an impressive room with the way that they use it, and the way that, you know, they use it right now for their sales pitches of their businesses, and so it's a neat space. It's left as a monochrome kind of white space with, you know, really the color and everything that was brought in is the focal point, is going to be what you project up on the top, on the front, or whatever you bring in, or whatever you use as your sales pitch. So it's left and meant to be kind of monochrome in that sense. And then that's just the entry foyer. Just to the right of that space is where our Shark Tank room is at. To the left is the doors leading to the outside and the stairway that goes up, and the other exit out towards the back of the campus, toward the multi-purpose building. But again, another nice project, I think, that has been very successful for the district. So. Well, a lot of our clients that we get, some of them are, you know, from past work that we've done, but a lot of them we have to interview for and be selected to do that project. And so if we're lucky enough to be given a project that's got a nice design opportunity and I get to work on it, for me, you get the client, you find out what their needs are, the program, and then you start to design around that program. And again, trying to come up with spaces and ways that you can make it special. And so for me, I take the program, try to figure out how we're going to lay out those spaces, you know, the relationship between the spaces, and then start to think about it in 3 dimensions, what it's going to look like. And a lot of that is always with the input of the end user. And in this case, schools are, you know, different than designing a home in some respects, because in a home you have the end user and you have communication with that end user, and you're designing specifically for that end user. And in our case, a lot of times we don't know, you know, we don't know the kids that are going to be in there. We don't know the teachers that are going to teach in our spaces. We're not designing specifically for that one teacher or that one student, but you're designing in general for that type of atmosphere. And so that can be a little bit of a challenge at times, but I think you take it, you design these spaces, you get the input. For me, I then take design and I still draw by hand. I still do some drawing by hand and then go into the computer and then come back and go back and forth. And then for me, I take a building and my design, the way I design it, I take my building, and like I said, it's a series of mistakes, and I'll use SketchUp. I'll draw by hand, put it into SketchUp, do the model in SketchUp, have an idea that I think, you know, that I've drawn out, that I'm thinking of, get it into SketchUp, and then see that I don't really like that or something, come up with a different one, or there's something about that I need to change. And a lot of times I'll take that model and I'll, you know, these files get very large, but I get a model and then I'll just copy it over and start to develop that one. And then, oh, there's something I don't like about that. I try something different and I'll move it over again, copy it again, and just keeping my way, you know, working my way down until I reach my final solution. Like I said, to me, it's a series of mistakes, right? I make a mistake, I don't really like that. I move to the next one, I make a mistake on that one, or I call it a mistake. It's not a mistake, but it's just something that, you know, something else you want to try, or you want to, might be better, and you work your way, and I work my way, and that's kind of the way I work through the design until I think I reach a point where, one, it's either due, or it's, you know, I think I'm satisfied with kind of where it's at, and then develop that strong strong design idea that you may have or something in some cases. So yeah, so we try to work out a schedule, try to figure out, okay, hey, and schools are very dependent on opening. You know, school starts in August, and so they got to be ready to August. So schools, a lot of time, if you're doing a new one, are very dependent on that August opening date. And so a lot of times you'll just work the schedule backwards and say that, okay, if I got to open in August, and this school is going to take a year and a half to build, it's going to take another 8 months to do documents and to get approval and all these other things, and you just work the schedule, and you figure out, sometimes you figure out how little time you've got to design, and sometimes you figure out, okay, this is what it's going to take, you know, this is kind of the schedule, and you try to work to that schedule. And so it still is some time maintenance, you know, talked about that early on about when you're in architecture school, of trying to manage your time. And that's still important now, you know, to try to meet schedules, and to try to, you know, your due dates when you turn in projects in school is important, and it's still important today, you know, to turn in these projects on time, to try to meet the schedule, because a lot of these buildings, you know, with anything, it's the cost of construction is just, it goes up, you know, and so the longer something takes to build, the more it's going to cost for the most part, you know, so. You know, time is money, and it's true. So we go from our hands and SketchUp models into Revit. You know, so we do everything in Revit, and that's a 3D program still, but don't necessarily design in Revit. So we'll take it into Revit, and then a lot of times we'll take it back out of Revit and work on the inside. You know, we'll have the model done, and we'll come back out and work on some of the interior spaces and stuff when we have it. And luckily we have an interiors department that helps us a lot with some of those things, some of those spaces and things that we do. But that's kind of the way I work, is that I take it, we go back into Revit and then bring it back out into SketchUp and go back and forth. And again, like I said, you're always designing. You always feel like, oh, there's just this little thing I can do to make it better, or you come up with a different idea of how you can do things. But you know, one thing I think that that young designers have a hard time understanding is that, you know, there are other people, we have consultants and other people working on these projects with us, and so you always feel like you want to make this last minute change or this last idea, but sometimes that change has ramifications to others, right? Other consultants, and so we try to be cognizant of that and know that, hey, if I'm going to make this change, it's going to involve my structural engineer redrawing something, recalculating something, my electrical engineer redoing his lights, and is it going to be worth it, you know, and make sure that it's the right decision to do, because we want to be respectful of other people's time, and sometimes you're so stuck on that design idea, and sometimes it's very minuscule, right? It's not really going to be noticeable sometimes, yet it's going to involve a lot of work. And so we've got to be cognizant of that, I think, as designers when we're working on these things. But ultimately, we want the best, right? We want that building to be beautiful and to have a soul and to be different. I mean, I think you look at those buildings, and I don't know if you can say I have a style. I wouldn't say that I have a style, right? Because I think that it's dependent on, I'm not designing for me, I'm designing for other people. They aren't my buildings, they belong to other people, they belong to that client. It's their money. You know, Planada, Latino migrant farm worker community, and I think that fits that community, and I believe they believe it fits them too. I don't think necessarily a Patino would have fit there, right? It's not the right solution for it. But Patino fits in for what they wanted, for what that client wanted at that space. I think Edison fits what that community wanted. And I think that Gaston fits what that community wanted. And Spanos, likewise, fits what was necessary for that community. And so I wouldn't say that I have a style. I think I've got a way that I think about architecture, a way that I think about the way I want to do design, but I don't think I would say that I have a style, because I think all those are different, and I think I think there's still something special in each one of those. And I think that like I said, I don't think I'm designing for me. I'm not trying to throw my ego out there and say that, hey, this is the way I want to do it. And like Richard Meyer, right? All his buildings look alike. And I think he has a style. While I like his style, I don't believe it fits everywhere, right? And maybe I'm not lucky enough to have the clientele that he has to be able to do that. But we try to do what's best with what we have. And those were the projects that I had, and those were the communities that they needed to go into, and we tried to make the best of what we have. And I think those are good projects. I guess I wouldn't consider myself an intellectual that's got this design theory that I'm going to impose on everything I do, And I'm not saying that those people impose their ideas on everything they do, but I guess that's just not me. I try to listen to what that client wants, and try to instill maybe my design style that I may have into that and meld it into a positive outcome that provides them what they want. There was some discussion with some of these clients, that they want to do is they want a certain style, right? And some people feel like, well, I don't even want to do that, or I don't agree with that. And it's like, well, you can agree or not agree, but it's their money. And if they want that, then let them have it. Now, whether you want to do it or not, that's up to you. And whether you think you can do a good job doing that, whether I think I can do a good job doing it, whether I want to do it, is up to me. But can they do that? Yeah, they've got the right to do it. It's their money. Just like if I want to do a house, and if I want to go out there and do it in some craftsman style, which is I wouldn't do, but if I want to do that, it's my money, it's my house, right? Why should you tell me how I should do it? I don't believe in that. I don't know if I can. I guess I talk about that these buildings having a soul, and I think it's part of that. I don't know exactly what it is. It's like Edison. If I could capture that every time, because that one seems to have been successful or struck a nerve with a lot of people, or a chord that they like it, then I would do it everywhere, right? And maybe I do, but I just don't know it. I don't know. I wish I did. But I think there's got to be something special to that building. There's got to be some soul, some uniqueness, something that makes it architecture. Because architecture, like I said, I think is building beautiful buildings that have soul. Not every building has a soul. You look at some of these strip malls, I don't think have a soul, right? I'm sorry, but I don't think they have a soul. They're just a building. They serve a function. They have a roof and a wall, and they serve a function. But there's nothing special about it, right? There's nothing that makes that isn't architecture. There's nothing that makes that architecture. That's a building, but it's not architecture. It's like art, right? I guess people can think of art differently, and we all have different interpretations of what is art. But just because I draw something doesn't make it good art, right? Doesn't make it art. Just because you build a box doesn't make it architecture. And so I think for me, a building has to have a soul. It has to have some kind of beauty, something that makes it special. And I don't know what it is in every building. I don't know what it is, but you can tell the ones that do, and you can tell the ones that don't. I got to think that other people try, right? I can't believe that people spend 8 hours or more a day and aren't trying to do their best. Now, maybe they aren't. Maybe I'm naive and they aren't. But not everybody's as talented as everybody else. And I'm not saying my stuff is better than anybody else's, but we're all different, and we're not, we aren't all, don't all have the same talents. We're all different in the talents that we may have. And I think that everybody tries. Now, there may be some that are more, architecture, it can be an architecture-led business, or it can be a business-led architecture, right? So where really the business drives it, right? You're just trying to make money. And maybe there's firms out there that are doing that. We don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. We're an architecture business, not a business that's an architecture firm. And so I've got to think that people are trying to do good stuff. Where is the situation of architecture in Fresno? To me, it definitely is not where it should be. And I know there are some others that I'm not trying to say that people aren't doing good work. People are. I think there's some good stuff out there. But again, a lot of it isn't. You know, a lot of these strip malls and stuff, just that's not architecture. And I think to me, what Fresno is right now is that it's a very conservative community, and because of that, maybe some of this modern or something a little bit more contemporary is difficult for them to gravitate towards, maybe. Because you see a lot of people, this is one of my pet peeves, you see a lot of people that have the money to do a custom home, right? They do, and they're telling you about, oh my God, I'm doing a custom home, it's beautiful, blah, blah, and it's just a glorified tract home, right? It's just a bigger tract home with a nicer pull on the kitchen cabinet or something. Yeah, it's just, and that to me is disappointing. You know, they've got the money to do something unique for themselves, and yet maybe that's the thinking of what architecture is. And I think there needs to be some education, maybe, of what good architecture is. We don't have an architecture school here other than City College and COS, but we don't have a university that has architecture. We're not lucky enough to have that. I think if that were here, that would help, I think, in some respects. And like I said, it's a conservative community, and because of that, a lot of the style here is very conservative. You know, not that that's bad. It's not my particular taste in some cases, but I'm not saying it's bad. But I think it could be. It's definitely not as progressive as San Francisco, where you see some of these more progressive style of architecture. LA, you know, the bigger cities and stuff, I think. But, you know, is it heading in the right direction? I hope so. I hope young people like you and others take on that challenge to continue to try to do unique in buildings that have souls and not strip malls. You know, and if you're going to do a strip mall, try to make it something that's special. You know, if there's a chance. I think the youth are going to play a big part in it, right? Fresno's going to grow, and whatever follows after me and others is going to be up to them, right? Now, can we still influence that? Yeah, we're the older guard that maybe is at a more mature time in our lives as far as architecture, and can continue to provide that guidance and to do good work so that others can follow, right? It's like anything else, you know, you do good things, the good works, and hopefully the generation after you will follow and learn from that and continue that. And I think that's what we need to do. Is it dependent on them too? Yes, it's dependent on them too to try to do good works as well. What are their obstacles? Again, the conservative nature of what Fresno is, I think, is an obstacle to. I guess you know, it's an obstacle. Yes, I guess in a way, just finding a client that'll let you do what you might want to do. But I think that it's also incumbent on the architect to have good ideas, to show the value of good design. And that's what sometimes we don't do a good job of. So obstacles are probably going to be that, and of just getting to the point where you can show the value of good design. You know, because I think at a younger age it's hard to do that, but as you mature, I think it becomes more, you know, you tend to learn a little bit of how this all works and stuff. And so obstacles are going to be, again, too, is if for younger architects, get your license. I see a lot of people, and I'll tell the younger group, get your license, because, and get it as soon as you can after you graduate, because it's hard to do afterwards, right? People can do it. I'm not saying it can't be done. It can be, but it's like, get your license. You know, I think you gain a little bit of respect with that license. It shows, you know, you can finally, that was one of my biggest pet peeves, right? I didn't know anything against going to college. I want to be an architect. You know, you go to school for 5 years at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, you graduate, and I still couldn't call myself an architect. I'm like, man, I went to school for all these years, and I still can't call myself an architect. But, you know, so I wanted to get that license. I wanted, you know, when I got it, that felt good to be able to say, okay, now I'm an architect, right? You kind of made it in some sense. But I'd say for the younger generation, get your license. It's important. You know, a lot of people don't think it is, but it is, and it needs to continue. And so, get your license and continue to try to do good work and continue to try to push the envelope and show the value of good design. I think it means that you know, as a child, you don't have the burden of life, right? Of kids, family, mortgage, whatever, all these other things. And so as a child, you're freer without those burdens of life on you. And so you're probably freer to think and to do things and to try things for the first time, right? That maybe as we get older, we tend to not do as much. I don't know. But I think to me, it kind of means that. And it also is, to me, it also reminds me of a lot when people graduate, you know, you've got these great ideals of what you think architecture is, what it should be, what it can do. And then I think a lot of people lose that as they get older. It becomes harder for them to keep that idea, you know, because you got to pay the bills, you got to do these other things. I think to me it means just try to hold on to that as long as you can, and try to always think freely as a child does, and don't be afraid to try new things, don't be afraid to fail, and that's how you're going to learn a lot of the times. So I think that's what it means to me, and to continue to try to do that. I'm not on any of that social media stuff. I don't know, don't have time for it, to be honest with you. But I guess here at the office, Darden Architects, you know, call Darden Architects, or email at Darden Architects. But yeah, probably reach me through Darden Architects.